Think times are tough for mankind right now? It could always be worse. Just ask the handful of humans who lived nearly a million years ago. The next time you walk down a packed city street, stroll around a mall, or wade through a concert crowd, take a look around and ask yourself, what if these people were the only people alive? Imagine that exact group of people were dispersed across the entire globe, and that this was the entirety of Earth's human population across every settlement, tribe, industry, profession, and more. We'll put it this way, you'd better hope there's at least one medical doctor in there, or one person who knows how to grow crops, or one person with mechanical know-how. And if some great disaster happens at that point, well, then humanity might be destroyed for good. Amazingly, this exact scenario happened once before. Granted, back then, civilization was still at the hunter-forager phase, so there was arguably much less to lose. But in today's crowded world, it's hard to fathom what it would be like to live on a planet where the global population amounts to that of a large high school. This phase didn't last for 20 years or even 200, though. As a recent article from the Journal of Science claims, it lasted for about 117,000 years. From 930,000 to 813,000 years ago, environmental conditions on Earth funneled our human ancestors into a protracted population bottleneck. The entirety of the human population, all located on the African continent, was culled from an already mere 100,000 to about 1,280 breeding individuals, that is, members of the species capable of producing offspring. To be clear, when we talk about humans almost going extinct 900,000 to 800,000 years ago, we're not talking about anatomically modern Homo sapiens. Science has tallied 22 different human species going all the way back 7 million years ago, beginning with Sahelanthropus chadensis, the first human in West Central Africa to show signs of upright posture and smaller canine teeth. By the time the population bottleneck happened, the key human species on the scene was Homo erectus, the most successful and long-living human species that existed all the way from 1.89 million to 110,000 years ago. It was Homo erectus who bore the brunt of the population bottleneck. The Guardian speculates that the extreme pressure to survive and the environmental conditions of the time might have directly contributed to speciation, which is the branch-like divergence of different species. And this may have caused the rise of subsequent human species, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthalensis, and Homo sapiens. That's us. Speaking about this 117,000-year-long bottleneck, Professor Chris Stringer at London's Natural History Museum told The Guardian, "It's an extraordinary length of time. It's remarkable that we did get through it at all. For a population of that size, you just need one bad climate event, an epidemic, a volcanic eruption, and you're gone." Human population figures over the last million years make for interesting reading. This amount of time roughly overlaps with Earth's Pleistocene era, a span of history stretching all the way from about 2.5 million years ago to a scant 11,700 years ago. This was a time in which the polar ice sheet stretched all the way down to southern Italy and only receded very, very slowly. The end of the Pleistocene era, which marked the beginning of the modern Holocene era, very non-coincidentally coincided with the first marks of human agriculture, as well as the dawn of advanced civilization in the Middle East. According to popular science, there were about 98,130 humans alive prior to about 930,000 years ago. This then shrunk to 1,280 people for 117,000 years. After this, the population stayed at a stable but still meager 21,160, all the way to Homo sapiens' mass exodus from the African continent about 100,000 years ago. These kinds of facts only became possible recently thanks to a genetic sequencing method that researchers dubbed FITCOL, Fast Infinitesimal Time Coalescent Process. Researchers only needed genetic samples from 3,154 current people to trace genetic markers all the way back to the bottleneck period. Previously, archaeologists had discovered a severe lack of fossils from the time period in question, which, thanks to the work of the current study, now makes a lot more sense.